It was a Wednesday evening, the kind of ordinary evening you don't think twice about. I'd just gotten off the phone with a friend, popped in my AirPods, tied up my sneakers, and thought I'll get a quick walk in before dinner. Half a mile in, I pressed the button for the crosswalk, waited for the signal, looked both ways, and stepped off the curb. And that's when it happened. A Honda Civic came barreling down the hill. The driver didn't see me until it was too late. He slammed on the brakes, but the car still hit me. I don't remember the fall, but I do remember the instant shock and pain I was in. I woke to strangers rushing towards me, voices asking if I was okay, people kneeling beside me. That moment is burned into me forever. Not just the crash, but the kindness of strangers, people who didn't know me, but stopped everything to help. When I was hit by a car, my injuries were temporary, but my perspective changed forever. Most of us think of leadership as casting vision, building strategies, and driving results. But rarely do we stop to ask, what happens if I'm not here tomorrow? What happens if the meeting I'm supposed to run doesn't take place? What if the business I'm steering loses its captain overnight? What if the family you love is not just dealing with grief, but picking up your unfinished mess? That's not a hypothetical. That's a reality waiting for leaders who are only planning for the expected. I was lucky. No head injury, all injuries were recoverable. But later in the hospital, when the adrenaline wore off, that's when the what ifs started rushing in. What if I hadn't been so lucky? What if my family had to figure out my passwords, my business, my finances, all while dealing with the grief of losing me? And that's when I realized I'd been a leader in my business, but not a leader for those who would have to clean up after me. I've spent my entire career building businesses, helping retailers scale profitably. I live in systems and strategies. But lying in that hospital bed, I realized the system most leaders ignore is the system for the unexpected. Leadership isn't just about quarterly goals and building culture, it's about building legacy. What happens to people who depend on you when you're no longer there to steer the wheel? We think leadership is showing up in the moment, but real leadership is showing up when you're gone. How do we lead through the unexpected? In my experience, not just from the accident, but from working with Fortune 500 companies, first, communicate. Leadership begins with communication, not just the easy conversations about strategies and objectives, but the difficult ones about what happens if I'm no longer here. Talk to your family about your wishes. Talk to your team about who steps up when you're gone. Talk to your business partners about succession. Silence creates confusion, and confusion creates chaos. This isn't a morbid conversation. This is love in action. I realized this after talking to my parents after the accident. We realized they had things that needed to be updated and clearly communicated. This conversation lifted so much unseen weight. It doesn't bring fear, it brings peace. Instead of unanswered questions, there's an understanding. Having these difficult conversations is giving your family a gift greater than instructions. It's giving them peace and clarity when they'll need it the most. Next, organize. We're all subscribed to 1,000 different things: streaming services, subscriptions, and credit cards. If you weren't here tomorrow, would somebody be able to piece it all together? Organizing isn't glamorous. It's love in action. It's leadership in action. It's passwords, wills, all in one place. It's saying, I cared enough to make this easier for you. After the accident, I realized how unprepared I was. I created one simple binder with where things are, who to call, and what accounts exist. This action made me feel so much more prepared. The thing about organization is that it takes it from someday I should to I've got this. Prepared leadership isn't about control, it's about consideration. Finally, live. This is the part that most people skip. Once you've done the tactical and made the binder and built the plans, Ask yourself, am I actually living the life I want to be remembered for? Because here's what preparing for the end does: it forces you to look at the present. Are you spending time with the people you love? Are you spending your money on experiences, not just expenses? Are you building a legacy worth leaving? After everything, I learned that preparedness brings permission to slow down and enjoy the little things. Being present isn't just about the big events, it's about the ordinary things that every day that you get to enjoy. For me, after the accident, I realized I don't want a life of unanswered emails and unfinished subscriptions. I want a life remembered by impact, by presence, and the people I love knowing how much they mean to me. And when your people look back, they won't just remember what you accomplished, they'll remember how you led them through the unexpected. Here's my challenge for you: don't wait for your Honda Civic moment to realize that leadership is more than casting vision. This week, write down your wishes, share your passwords with a loved one, and have your first uncomfortable conversation. Leadership isn't just about the future you build while you're here, it's about the peace you leave behind when you're gone.